Welcome to Like Mother, Like Murder. I am Rachel.
And I'm Heather.
We bring you the good,
The badass,
and the crime.
This is Like Mother, Like Murder.
And right now is Like Mother, Like Murder's trial updates, where we will be providing daily coverage in the ongoing trial of Donna Adelson for the murder of Dan Markel. We've been covering this case for years now, and so far, 4 people have been found guilty in the plot to murder this father of 2 young boys.
And Donna Adelson, Dan Markel's former mother-in-law, is the latest conspirator to stand trial for this crime. Rachel and I will be continuing to provide coverage every day and will be joined by special guests throughout this special series. We will be bringing you this every day that there is trial coverage, so let's do this.
Today was day 8 on the ongoing trial of Donna Adelson for the murder of Dan Markel. And, wah, wah.
Yeah, it was day 8, and to me, prosecution went first, but we have only gone further down into this, like, what is happening when it comes to the defense.
I mean, we were like, okay, yesterday we talked about how defense did not come out swinging.
No.
Maybe they were going to ramp up to something.
Yeah.
I mean, we have been waiting for Charlie Adelson to come. I mean, we know, we heard that he was in town. Like, we heard that he had traveled from where he's been serving his sentence and had traveled to Tallahassee. So where is he? I mean, what the heck? He did not testify. They had problems with their witnesses yesterday. They're having problems with their witnesses nonstop today. They started off today having a problem with their witnesses. Basically, we started today with a witness not wanting to even come be their witness. So they had basically wanted to call a sheriff, and she basically was like, nah, I don't want to testify for you anymore.
Right.
And then the defense gets up there and they're basically trying to tell the judge, we're asking you to make her. And the judge is like, I cannot make her come in here and testify. And the judge is like, you can try to subpoena her if you'd like, but it is not within my purview to force someone to come up here.
Right.
And then there's another witness apparently that they were going to try to subpoena. So I think their first 2 witnesses of the day basically bailed on them.
Yeah, and to me, I mean, you guys already know where we stand, so I don't have to try to say this lightly, but it's like the defense has done literally nothing, in my opinion. And today, it's like, today more than anything else showed how unorganized and how, like, I'm like, what is happening here? Nothing made sense to me.
It was so bad. And because then the first person they get actually to show up and be on the stand, right, was Adams. I think it's like Adamson is how you said it. And this was Wendy. This was the first of Wendy's lawyers when she was getting a divorce from Dan, and when they were going through all of like the relocation and custody and all of that stuff. And basically she was on the stand for a really long time. And it was basically just recapping everything that went down in Wendy and Dan's divorce.
Yeah, but also it was like, here, tell me again how Dan didn't pay you money. Wait, hold on. I know you already told me, but can you tell me one more time how Dan didn't pay you money? Wait, and again, one more time. Can you tell me again how he didn't pay you money?
And again, this has to do with Dan and Wendy. And how many times did they even mention Donna?
No.
And it was so annoying because basically they get up there and they talk about all this stuff. And then they finally, the only time they kind of talk about Donna is they talk about, basically they say, okay, so were you aware that Donna was, sending emails back and forth to Wendy saying, hey, make sure you mention this to your lawyer. And the lawyer, to her credit, was like, well, if she was doing that, I did not put any of that into my motions because I write my own shit.
Right.
And so like she basically was like, that's not, a family can do that, clients can do that. I get clients trying to send me chat GPT stuff to tell me how to lawyer.
Exactly.
I've been practicing. I have, it's my license,
she's like
my bar.
37 years. She's
Yeah,
like, I'm
I
not
know
new
what
here.
I'm
I'm
doing.
96. I'm like,
Yeah. So to her
been
credit,
here.
she's like, she could have done that. I didn't. If she did, I didn't know about it. And even if I
Right.
did know about it, I definitely wouldn't have fucking used it. So, they basically brought her up the stand to basically have to recap this whole entire thing that to her was like, it was annoying as hell. And like, it got to be really annoying because then her own, because Dan Markel started to kind of come after her. And so she basically had to recuse herself from being Wendy's lawyer and then, deal with all this stuff. So, but basically, I was like, why are they bringing all this up? And I was like, maybe it'll come back later. Maybe this is something foundational. Maybe they're building to something. And I was just like, okay, I don't know. And then they pull her off the stand and then let the drama start because we find out the same thing that happened yesterday where a witness was in the courtroom watching another defense witness testify, which is a no-no. You're not supposed to do this. Another witness was in the courtroom watching Wendy's lawyer, Ms. Adelson,
They did not have their shit together. Like, they were not.
My gosh.
Right.
And they definitely did not have their shit together. So basically what happened was their next witness was something Bailey. And she was basically another lawyer who had actually worked with, because they're both lawyers, I think family lawyers from the Tallahassee area. She had actually worked with Miss Adamson, and they're both family lawyers. And she had actually asked, hey, can I sit in on Adamson's testimony? And the defense had previously asked the judge, our witness wants to sit in on the testimony. And the state had said, like, I don't want that to happen. And I think basically what had happened is the judge had never made like a clear ruling on it. But the state was like, no. And I don't think the judge made a clear ruling because it's not allowed. Like, the rules are very clear.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to happen. And so then, there was a little bit of more drama about this. And the state basically was like, this is the second time it's happened. Throw this witness out. They shouldn't be allowed to testify. And so then basically, and the judge was like, look, I understand this is the second time it's happened, but that's a very extreme thing. And so they basically had to come in and they had to question, Linda Bailey was her name. And they had to say, was listening to Adamson's testimony going to change anything you were going to testify to? Because if her answer was yes, listening to her witness testimony changes what I would have said on the witness stand, then her testimony would have been out. Like, she would not have been able to testify. But she's like, no, I didn't learn anything new. So basically she was able to move forward. But the judge did say, like, look, this is the second time this has happened. Like, defense, get your shit together. And so she goes on, and it's again a lot of the same, like you were saying, Rachel. They're just asking her a bunch of shit, and you're just like,
and to me, it was like nothing was relevant. Like, none of this was making a case, in my opinion.
And that was one of the big objections that ended up having to send the jury out of the room, because the defense tries to pull some drama. And basically one of the things they were trying to establish that between both Adelson and this Bailey lawyer, these are both family lawyers, between the two of them, they've got lots and lots of years of working various divorce, relocations, child custody cases, this kind of stuff. They're very experienced. These are two very experienced women in this kind of realm. And so what the defense is trying to say with both of these lawyers is this was not a contentious case. They're trying to say, look, this was no big deal. This was not a contentious case. And I think what they're trying to say by saying this is Donna wouldn't have had any reason to take such a drastic act such as murdering her ex-son-in-law. They're trying to say, like, this was no big deal because this kind of stuff happened all the time. Listen to these two lawyers tell you this wasn't a contentious case. And so then what the defense tries to do is play this drama, and they take a bunch of, they ask Bailey, was this a contentious case? And she goes, no, not really. And then they pull out like 4 boxes full of binders, and they stack it up on the frickin' witness stand. And they were like, this was a case that you worked on that was a contentious case. How many boxes do you have? And Kappelman's like, F this, objection, relevance. What is this? Because this was not Wendy's case. This was some other random case. And then defense gets all riled up, and the judge is like, whoa, sends the jury out. And then they have to go talk about it. And then basically the judge throws this shit out. There's no showboating in Judge Everett's courtroom. Okay?
Yeah,
okay? He shut that shit down. And because basically the defense was trying to say, hey, we should be able to establish that Wendy's case was not a contentious case just by sheer fact that there was, the case that had all of these boxes. Look at all these boxes, and Wendy's case wasn't that big of a case. Like,
that had 4 boxes. Wendy's had 1. Okay.
Oh, big deal. Why did Wendy's have 1?
Yeah,
Georgia
exactly.
Kappelman brings it up.
Yep,
because
she sure does.
Why? Well, not to, how many, March, April, May, June, July? Because 4 months after one of Dan Markel's filings, he was murdered. So,
Yeah, exactly.
So, which Georgia Kappelman brings up. So basically, a lot of the same from Bailey. She basically testifies, oh, no, this wasn't a contentious thing. They ask her, too, about, like, did you know about any of because she was brought in, not because she was a lawyer on Wendy's case. She was brought in specifically to look at all of the divorce filings and the relocation stuff as an expert witness to testify to whether or not this was a quote unquote contentious case. And then she was also given some of the communications, and she basically testified that, yes, Donna was upset after the relocation was denied, and that she's like, yeah, that's normal. Family members reach out, because she also worked as a mediator, because a lot of times to avoid going to a full trial and a judge making a final decision on, who gets what and how this all works out, you try to go to a mediator. And so she testified, with her experience in that, and she's there to say, yes, that's normal for family to want to be part of that. And, she's like, yeah, Donna wanted to keep on keeping on fighting for relocation, but then eventually she was maybe in denial the first couple of weeks after the ruling, but then eventually she got over it. And then they were also both her and the other lawyer also testified that, yeah, it's not uncommon for people to pay for the other party to allow them to relocate. They're like, yeah, that happens all the time. And we know that, at one point the Adelsons were like, we'll give Dan $1 million if he'll let you relocate. Right. And I mean, I forget which one of them. I forget which one, but one of them talked about the fact that, because they said they eventually get to the point that, Dan was murdered. And she said, like I said, I don't remember if it was the first one or the second one, but she's like, yeah, I've had that happen as well. Like, this is not my first case that there's been a murder. There's been suicide. There's been other things, as well. Yep, exactly. And so, and this witness, she said that she also read the communications where Dan was telling, where he had emailed Wendy and the parenting coordinator, like, look, Donna's telling the boys I'm stupid, blah, 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 blah. And that this is where it gets kind of interesting, right? Because a big part of the prosecution's case was this quote unquote grandmother motion. And what this witness testifies to is that, look, this quote-unquote grandmother motion that the prosecution relied so heavily on wasn't maybe as big a deal as they made it out to be, because she says that this grandmother motion was actually just one paragraph out of like 10. He had basically filed this motion that had like 10 different points, one of which was that Donna Adelson, had been making disparaging remarks, and that it had to do with the first right of refusal, meaning, you can't just, if you don't want to take care of the kids, you need to allow me to do it. Don't just allow the kids to go straight to the grandma. And she's trying to say stuff like, because, we heard when the prosecution was presenting evidence that he basically was the motion was that he didn't want her to have unsupervised contact with the kids. And so she's basically saying, no, there's nothing like that. And this motion was basically just all talk. And it was not based in any actual court rulings. If he really wanted this motion to be real, if he really wanted Donna Adelson to have no unsupervised contact with the kids, he would have had to file a whole other petition. This was just talk, blah, 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 blah. So as a lawyer, she's saying basically like the legal standing behind what Dan was filing was not really there. It was baseless. And and she was also there to say that, and we don't know that Donna ever saw this, something that the defense had also brought up during the prosecution presenting evidence, that how do you know that Donna even saw this to be mad at? Okay.
Right.
And so then Kappelman gets up there and she's pissed. Kappelman's mad. She does not like Miss Bailey. You can tell. Kappelman's fuming. She's like holding her head like, oh, and she's like almost yelling at her. But she's going up there and she's pretty pissed because this lady is basically downplaying not only the grandma motion, but downplaying kind of the whole idea that is a big part of a lot of people's lives. And she's saying, look, to you, a lawyer, these things that are routine for you, these day in, these day out, these divorce filings, these child custody, these relocations, they're no big deal to you. But to someone, this is their life. This is make or break. This is their kids. This is their career. Whatever it is, to you, it's no big deal. To them, it's huge. And the lady, exactly. And Bailey is just trying to say, well, and she's kind of like pussyfooting around it. And then Georgia Kappelman says, okay, fine. Have you ever had someone murdered? Or, like you said, have you ever had someone murdered or commit suicide during one of your cases? And the lady said, yes, once I had someone say, if you file for divorce, I will commit suicide. And unfortunately, this person did just that. Their significant other filed for divorce, and the next day that person committed suicide. And Georgia Kappelman straight up asked, is that something, do you think divorce is something to commit suicide over? She goes, me personally, no. But that person thought it was something to commit suicide over. And she goes, well, obviously. Yes, obviously. Because to you, divorce, this is your job. This is routine. You go through how many of these a week, how many of these a month, how many of these a year. But to that person, that was their whole life. Right. So what Kappelman's doing is she's basically explaining that you're trying to downplay the grandma motion. You're trying to downplay this whole proceeding, the Adelson Markel, relocation and divorce and child custody arrangements as, oh, it was baseless. It wasn't based in court. It meant nothing. Even if Donna had read it, she couldn't have possibly had worried about it or been mad about it because it didn't mean anything. Dan would have had to file a whole nother motion for it to even have taken effect. You know that as a lawyer, but to your average person, it could have been very scary.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And she did a damn good job of explaining that. And she really turned it right back on her and just said, yeah, like, here you go. Let's take a case example from your own personal case history here. So she did a really good job. And then the next person they call up is actually, interestingly, the lawyer who for a very short period in time actually represented Donna. She was Donna's lawyer right around the time that Charlie was on trial and convicted, kind of right up until around the time that Donna was arrested. And basically all this lawyer kind of testified to was that Donna Adelson seemed to be making suicidal comments around the time that Charlie Adelson was on trial and had been convicted. And this all kind of, she said, in her opinion, stemmed from the fact that her son was seemingly going to jail for life and she was really worried about him, and that their trip to what turned out to be Vietnam, and not an extradition country, from her knowledge was supposed to just be a vacation to help her clear her mind, that she had no knowledge that it was going to be an extradition country. And that's basically all she was there to testify to. That is pretty okay, like wah wah, like insubstantial either way. I don't think it played.
Yeah, the majority of today was,
and it didn't. I think it, it wasn't there. And then the last witness, a spoiler alert here for the last thing we'll kind of talk about. The last witness was the victim advocate that actually was there the day that Dan Markel was shot and was with Wendy at the police station. I mean, if you guys have followed this case, you know that the day that that Dan Markel was shot and they brought Wendy into the police station, this is the victim advocate you often see coming in and out of the police videos of Wendy in the room. She just testified that, she was there when Wendy called her mom to say, "Mom, sit down. Got to tell you something. Dan's been shot." And the witness testified, yeah, Donna sounded shocked. And here's the video. That's kind of it.
Bing, bang, boom.
But bing, bang, boom. Because then we get to the kind of the grand finale, not really pop fizz bleep.
Well, to me, it was the only part that was worth watching today, because the judge was so irritated with the defense, and it was the only thing worth it for me. I was like, seriously. So in this moment, they, it's okay, who are you going to call? And the defense wants a break. They want a recess. They want a break, yet another, to talk with Donna, because they want to see if Donna is going to go on the stand and, what's the right wording? Like, not exercise her right to be silent, right? So,
yeah.
Exactly.
Or not.
And so,
fifth. Yeah, plead the fifth.
Plead the fifth.
I was like, wait, plead the what? Wait, yeah, fifth.
He's like, you've had time. The judge is like, no, you've had this time to have these conversations. And then he's like, well, what did you do yesterday? And, and they're like, well, and I will say it was hilarious too, because when the guy was first talking, and then the defense girl, we still don't know their names.
Zalman is the guy. I just, for the life of me, the lady's name is don't make a impact on me.
Yeah. No. But for real, so like he started talking, and then when she started talking, the judge was like, no. Only one of you gets to have this conversation. And he like backs away. He shies away. He's like, oh, well, I was only going to say this one thing, and then she was going to do it, So she stands up, she starts talking, and is like, well, we didn't have the sufficient amount of time. He's like, no, she had the exact same amount of time as every other person in this case. And he goes, because she was like, well, yesterday we this, and that. Like, we went back to, have other conversations, and then we went to the jail to have this conversation, but it still wasn't enough time, right? But then he also talks about the fact that he's like, you also had pre-trial.
Yep.
And then you have during. And then if you guys haven't made it up in that time, I don't know what to tell you. And eventually it comes down to where he grants them 5 minutes with the biggest like huff, puff, cackle, laugh, everything, because he is over it, dude. But he's like, you have 5 minutes.
Well, and the crazy part is, right, is that this defense team already got an extension, right? They already got pre-trial. They already got extra time, right? Because Donna switched her lawyers, and then they said that there was too much stuff to go through and that they needed extra time, so he gave them extra time. Like this defense has gotten extension after extension after extension. I'm sorry. He has been more than lenient with the time that he's allotted them. And then it was funny because when he's like, okay, I'll give you 5 minutes and that's it. And then he came back after that 5 minutes and he goes, excuse me, I'm not just talking to be talking. He was like literally like having when you talk to kindergartners, like, I'm not just talking to hear my own voice. Like, you need to listen to me. Like, I am the judge. It is time. Your time is over. And that is when he's like, okay, Donna, what's your answer? Are you going to testify? And she decides she's not going to testify at this time. And that's that.
That's that. So we have no Charlie. We have no Donna. I didn't think Donna was going to talk, in my opinion, but I definitely thought Charlie would be here. It blew my mind. When they said we rest, I was like, what?
I'm trying to think if there was anything compelling.
No. The answer is no. There's nothing memorable from it. I mean, no, the only memorable moments are when Kappelman decides to be like, hey, guess what? I'm here, and nothing you say matters. That's it.
So, I mean, that's it. Defense rested. And it's crazy, you guys. I will tell you, I was actually behind watching today because I
spoiler alerted it
my
for
job was like jobbing today, so I was behind watching my trial, and I'm texting Rachel. I'm like, okay, I'm catching up, and I was just like, blah blah blah, it's boring, like, what's happening today, what, like, why is this sucking so bad? And I was like, da 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 da, and then she goes, yeah, and then they rested. I was like, shut up, you're lying, you can't be for real. And she's like, no, like, for real. I was like, stop it, like, you're pulling my leg, like, you've got to be joking. And she's like, I'm so sorry, like, I thought you knew. But I literally had been glued to my work computer for a couple hours, like, not even checking on anything. And I swear to God, I was like, no way. How in the world? And because I was like, there's absolutely no way. I mean, they did not, if you put together the amount of time that they actually had presented any evidence, because they had taken so many breaks. They had so many issues. There were so many sidebars. There were so many times the jury had to be taken out of the court. Like, there's so many, like, for instance, yesterday, they recessed early so that they could go confer with Donna. Like, they barely had a full day.
Dude, Corbett spent more time on the stand than any one of theirs combined. Like,
100%.
He was there.
100%. Corbett's time on the witness stand was longer than the defense's entire, 100%. So tomorrow we'll be closing arguments, and then we're just waiting for the jury. We're literally going to be at CrimeCon being like, yes, what's the freaking verdict? And to me, there is no, it's very clear cut, but obviously we're very biased in this case.
Right.
I guess if I was to put on maybe I know nothing about this case hat.
Well, I'm trying to think what that reasonable doubt. Yeah. Where is it?
It takes one person to see reasonable doubt. It only takes one. It takes one grandma who says, oh, she would never.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a grandmother, and I would never. So it only takes that one person to
that grandma better also think the opposite and say, wow, she would do that to the grandchildren's father?
I know.
Wow. Huh. That's crazy. One thing I wanted to say about the fact that you were talking about how I, spoiler alerted it for you. Kylie spoiler alerted it for me, you guys. So in one of our group chats,
I saw that and I really thought she was joking.
So I thought she was joking. And then after, because I was like, oh, I'm not there, shut your face. And she's like, no, I'm totally kidding. So then when I fast forwarded it and I saw what had actually happened, I had to message her on my own because I was like, dude, you little butthead. It was so funny.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny.
Oh,
I did have a question.
It's crazy because it's such a like, it's like that moment where you're like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen with it's like when you go up a roller coaster. It's like that one, if you guys have ever been to Disneyland and you go on Pirates of the Caribbean and you think it's gonna be like that, it's gonna be a huge like, ooh, but it ends up being just the
Yeah. You know, I have two things. So the first, I mean, talking about escalation or whatever, it's like when the defense first started, right after prosecution rested, we had high hopes. Like we were like, there's going to be some stuff that comes our way. There's going to, and we even had the conversation of, is there going to be something that gives us that reasonable doubt, right? Because we are where we stand. And I was like, what are they going to bring that's going to make me question something? The answer was nothing. They did a very poor job, in my opinion. Here we are. Did you watch after the defense rested?
Yes,
okay.
I did.
So that was one other thing where I could not stop laughing with the judge again when they asked for them to change the capitalization to
and he's like, so you're asking for a stylistic change here? It's like fucking, are you seriously asking? You just put this judge through 2 days of your bullshit, Zelman, and now you're gonna say, "Hey, judge, can you do me an eensy beensy favor?
We don't want that capitalized.
Can you make sure that her name and the charges aren't capitalized, please?"
Yeah,
for real. Oh my god, yeah, that was.
But his reaction was so funny because not only was his like remark hilarious, like his face, his like he's like, I know, he's like. He was so over it, dude. It was so funny.
He has been a absolute wonderful judge to watch throughout this entire process. Between him and Kappelman, it has just been. It's when you watch the defense and it's just like, I'm sorry, it's been a dumpster fire. And this is the crazy thing. They're rich. The Adelsons can afford some good-ass attorneys.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Why in the world did you spend all of it on Charlie's? Because, come on, man. Then to just, be able to just look across and see Georgia do her thing. And I feel really bad because the other lawyer she's with, I'm gonna have to look up her name too because she does a pretty good job as well. But then Judge Everett is just they're a joy.
They are
courtroom. And this is the thing, you guys. I and it does make me think, Rachel, because I'm a huge reasonable doubter. I'm a huge, you guys have heard me talk about I've covered throughout like Mother Like Murder's history a lot of cases when it comes to wrongful convictions. Mm-hmm. And whenever I cover those cases, even sometimes ones that aren't fully come out to be wrongful convictions, if you guys haven't heard, I covered it a while back, but the Koreatown massacres that I covered because those were local here in LA. It was the Koreatown massacres, right?
I think so. Is
that what they called them? I'll have to go back and double check.
There was different names, but
there was different. You're right. It was different names, so I could be getting them confused. That one, it isn't considered technically a wrongful conviction because he is still in prison. But in my mind, I'm like, God, there's so much reasonable doubt in this case, right? So I'm a huge proponent of reasonable doubt, but just don't see it in this case. I don't see it in this case.
Nope.
So, we will have to see. And you'll be getting our next update
tomorrow.
From CrimeCon.
Tomorrow, baby.
Rachel and I are literally on planes tomorrow. So we apologize now if the audio the next couple days is going to be, it is what it is. But we will have to be bringing you updates. This will not be the first time we bring you an Adelson update from an airport or a hotel room
event.
because I've done it before. We will
Yes.
do it again.
Yes. I mean, I leave to my plane in 3 hours. So
Girl.
I'm ready to
Go to
hop
bed.
on this mic and have these conversations.
Okay. Well, with that, you guys will hear from us tomorrow at the very least so that we can discuss how awesome Georgia Kaplan's closing arguments are going to be because we know they're going to be amazing.
Yes.
And then you may not hear from us the next day, depending on how long it takes the jury to deliberate. Other than that, you will probably see us all over Instagram because we will be updating nonstop from CrimeCon. Follow along for all of our shenanigans. And other than that, y'all, please take care of yourselves. And we will talk to you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for following along with us on this journey of our Markel-Adelson trial updates. This has been really fun for us, really fun for me. You guys know that this particular case has always been just one I've followed very closely. So this has been a lot of fun for me. Rachel, thank you for just being the ever so supportive co-host on this one. And we will talk to you guys tomorrow from Denver.
Denver, baby. All right, talk to you tomorrow. Okay, love you. Bye.
Okay, love you. Bye.